Eddie here has said that he's fine with any questions that you put up with him. Okay, he's a very open person. Okay, so just go ahead. If you have any queries, go and ask him. Yep. And also, try to learn something from this, and go forward. Don't feel, I mean, a lot of people here, mostly freshers, that is, when you see GitHub, the first thing you will think is, oh my god, what the hell is this? Okay, so here, this event, the main goal is to get rid of that fear. Okay, so I don't want to talk too much. Okay, so I'll hand it over to Eddie here. Yep, and have fun.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that great introduction. It's an absolute pleasure to be there with you kind of virtually. You're in sunny India. I'm in rainy and cold UK. But yeah, it's awesome to be here with you. And I'm really excited to talk to you about what open source is, how it can help you accelerate your career. Open source isn't just about code. And then we're actually going to look at GitHub and some practical examples. So it's not just going to be a talking head of me the whole time. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go through examples. And I'm really looking forward to your questions because I learn a lot from people when they ask me questions because it makes me think of things differently. You'll think of things that I haven't thought of. And if I can't answer it now, I will find out and let you know because then I will learn something new as well. So yes, please ask your questions. I will try and do a small section at a time to give people a chance to ask questions. But if I'm moving on and just ask in chat or nudge one of the hosts and they'll shout at me and tell me to have a look at the question because I might miss it in the chat. So if I do, apologize, but hopefully one of the hosts will notice it. I'm really excited. Q&A is going to be the best part. So I'm trying to leave as much time as I can for the Q&A. So that is my favorite part of everything. Okay. Right, let's have a look. So yeah, we talked about what we're going to cover, open source, why you should care, what is GitHub, what is Hacktoberfest and free swag and t-shirts, and Q&A. So let's get started. Like I'm just so excited. Right. A little bit about me. I've been a full stack developer for over 15 years now. That shows how old I am. And I've been involved in open source for over 10 years. Actually started off by fixing typos and improving documentation. That's how most people start. So that's normal. Don't let anyone tell you any different. I recently became a GitHub star. That means I was selected at the time, 12 people. I think it might be 15 people now out of 44 million people on GitHub to be in their stars program. And that means I get to join the engineering calls. I get to hear about upcoming features. I get access to some of their beta features, which I'm going to take you through shortly as well. I'm really excited to show you some beta features. I get lots of swag. I mean, I'm wearing a GitHub t-shirt here. I get boxes and boxes of toys and stickers and I can't remember, caps and sweaters and hoodies and all sorts of stuff. So lots of cool stuff. My biggest regret in my career is not starting open source sooner. I know I'm saying open source a lot, and a lot of you don't know what open source is. So I am going to explain what it is. But my regret is not getting involved sooner and not sharing my learnings on blog posts and YouTube a lot sooner. Yes, I spend a lot of my time on YouTube, and Praveen's here as well, and he's on YouTube a lot as well. And I learned so much by writing blog posts, by sharing my knowledge on YouTube or live streams or events like this. I learn a lot, and it also helps me find work. And I want you all to get into open source so you can benefit in the long term from getting the job that you want or the internship that you want. I mean, wouldn't it be great if you didn't have to apply for an internship or a job? They came to you. And I've had that with Google, GitHub, Facebook. They've come to me and offered me jobs. And I want that for all of you. I want you all to stand out. So don't fall asleep, stay tuned, and we're gonna find out how you can do that. Okay. Everyone's still awake? I'm trying to have a quick look at all your faces, right? A few people smiling. That's good. So let me introduce you to what open source is before we kind of show examples. Kind of what is it? A really good example, a good way to explain it, I think. Maybe you have a different way, and I'm more than happy to hear your ways. Let me know if you've got a better way of explaining it is. It's social coding is what GitHub calls it. And if you think of Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, people can follow you, they can like your posts, they can put a comment. You can do the same on GitHub with someone's code. You can star a project, if you want to know more about the project and support the project, you can put a comment on someone's code. You can go one step further, actually probably 2 or 3 steps further on GitHub. You can actually change someone else's code. Actually, let me rephrase that. You can change someone else's files, because it's not just about code. It started off as code, but it is about documentation, automated tests. I mean, as people put recipes on GitHub, so people put recipes up there that they've made, and other people can then make improvements and changes to those recipes. So therefore, you're kind of crowdsourcing that information. And I want to show you some examples of repositories, and I'll explain what repositories in a minute, like projects where they're crowdsourcing information. So yes, hopefully that makes sense. It's like social platforms, but on steroids. And it's not about code. So why should you care about this? You know, you might think I'm a coder, or I'm not a coder, or I want to be in tech, but I don't want to code. That's fine. This is for the tech. GitHub is for everybody involved in tech, and every company is involved in tech. Even my friend who's a lawyer, their company has a tech department. Not everyone codes in that tech department. They have developers, testers, product owners, business analysts. There's like 20 different roles you can take, but all of those roles need to use GitHub one way or another. So, you know, why should you care? It's so important to get involved in open source, and GitHub is the de facto platform there are other platforms, but it is the de facto standard for open source. It has the biggest community. And why should you care? You will not only learn more about the technical side, you know, the coding, the automated tests, technical documentation, whatever area you're looking at, only will you learn those skills, you will learn a more important skill. You will learn how to communicate and collaborate with people. And you may think, hey, I'm a friendly person. You know, I can talk to most people. You know, I'm fine. Have you ever posted on a forum like Stack Overflow and no one replies? It's probably because you didn't explain the problem very, very well. And I see this on forums and GitHub issues and all sorts all the time. And people say, my question's older, but you've replied to somebody else's first, which is newer. I said, well, theirs is really easy for me to understand, so I can do it between meetings, between whatever I'm doing. Whereas yours, I don't understand it. I have to kind of analyze it a lot more and really try and figure out what's going on. And that requires a lot more effort. So you will pick up more skills in addition to the technical ones. You will pick up the right attitude. You will pick up the communication. And I can actually really see when I'm interviewing someone from, say, my client projects or my projects, I can really see someone who contributes to open source without even looking at their GitHub, because they will explain things very, very differently. Have you ever had an email where someone's written, I don't know, a block of information, questions, etc., and then someone else replies and says, yes, I can do that. No, I can't do that. And I'll think about that one. Which ones are they referring to? Whereas someone who communicates on GitHub knows that time is precious. And someone like me, for example, I'm not, you know, the most popular person on GitHub by any means, but I get over 200 notifications from GitHub a day. And I'm sure there are people who get thousands. So when I'm looking at a notification, you want to make it as easy for me and for other people as possible. And that's just for anything. That goes for collaborating with people in a job who aren't using GitHub. The communication skill is really important. And we're going to look at some examples. And it also helps you grow your network. I know everyone likes to think LinkedIn is the important business platform, but to be honest, I've been on LinkedIn since I think it first came around like over 10 years ago. And I've never got one piece of work from LinkedIn. I have got a lot of work from GitHub. So I think things are changing. I'm not saying not to have a LinkedIn. I'm not saying LinkedIn isn't important, but I find LinkedIn to be a lot of spam. Whereas when I get an inquiry on GitHub or a new connection or whatever it is, it's valuable. They've looked into what I do, right? I don't want to get, for example, job offers in .NET, not because .NET's bad, but it's just not an area that I work in. Whereas on LinkedIn, you know, I get 99.9% is all stuff that is irrelevant. Whereas on GitHub, 99.9% is all relevant. So I get, yes, less on GitHub, but they're all relevant rather than getting thousands that are irrelevant. So yeah, GitHub is becoming more and more important. So it's important to have a good profile on there. And we're going to go through how you can customize and make a good profile for yourself. And we'll show some examples of how you can contribute to projects and what to learn. Like GitHub is quite scary. I mean, I was scared when I started on GitHub a long time ago when it first came about. And there are only about 2 or 3 tabs on the top. Now you've got like 7 or 8 tabs. And when you click on one, there's even more tabs down the left. So I know it's really scary. And we're going to go through those one by one. We've got quite a bit of time today. And I'm excited to go through each one with you. And I'll go through with a light touch. I really want all of you to ask questions in which areas you want me to focus more in. Okay, right. How's everyone doing? Everyone still awake? Does that make sense? Shall I dig a bit deeper, or does anyone have any questions where we are now? I haven't been able to keep up with the chat. So if there are anything, if any of the hosts can pull any out, or people unmute themselves and ask questions, but if not, we're going to dig deep.
There aren't any questions as of in the chat right now. If anybody has any questions to ask, you can unmute yourself.
No, I did see one question. It's a bit about from Pratyush Aryan. What is git bash or git hash? I think he means what is git bash.
Yep.
That's the only question so far.
I think
And
we'll
what
cover
exactly
that
is
later.
open source? Yeah. I
Okay.
think it will be covered.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to cover both of those, but if I don't, re-ask those questions again. So I'll move on to the next section. I think I'll cover a bit more into those. But if I miss those out, please, yeah, whoever asked those questions, just ask again. I will not be offended. It helps me get better. This is kind of, we're almost open sourcing my my workshop, which I love. I open source everything. I don't have any private projects. Even setting up my computer with .dot files, they're all open source. So everything is open source. Right. Okay, and when we talk about open source, getting involved in projects, making improvements, it's just about adding value. It's not about adding code. You'll notice that I'll always talk about adding value. If you raise an issue with, which is like a ticket, and again, I'm going to show you that in a second. That's adding value. If you're asking a question, you're pointing out a bug. You're not fixing the bug. You're just mentioning the bug, and you're saying, I used Safari and I was on Mac, this version. That's adding value to a project. It's all about adding value. If you're reviewing someone else's work and you may think, hey, wait a second, I don't really know this project. I'm not an expert in this technology. But by you reviewing someone's work, you're adding so much value. When I get new people onto any of my projects, be it open source, be it client projects that are paid, I love it when we get new people on the project because I ask them to look at the project and say, what do you think the project does? And the first thing they always say is, I don't really know about it. Can you tell me about it? It's like, no. I don't want to tell you about it. Because if you can't understand what the project does, doesn't mean that you're not good. It means the project is not good. So, and then each time we get a new person, we do the same thing again, and the project gets easier and better for new people to pick it up. So don't think about you can't contribute to a project because you don't know about it or you're new to tech, etc. You can add so much value. And when getting involved in the community and open source space, don't think, right, this weekend I want to spend 100 hours, which will be quite impressive because only like 48 hours in a weekend, but you kind of get what I mean. Don't think I want to spend 100 hours this weekend on it and then do nothing for 6 months. There's no value in that because one, you'll burn out. One, the quality that you add will just reduce as time goes on in that weekend. It's too much. And then the reason why there's no value to you is when someone comes to look at your profile, they'll just see really busy for one weekend and then nothing for a long time. And that doesn't add value to your profile. And what I mean is when I look at people's GitHub profiles, and I do look at people's GitHub profiles. I don't look at LinkedIn. When I get a CV in or whatever the communication, I don't look at someone's LinkedIn because you can write whatever you want. You could write you're the CEO of Apple. Like there's no check. On GitHub, everything's associated to you and all the communication you have, all the work and effort you do is associated to you and you can't cheat it. So what I look for are 3 things. And number 1 is not code. Number 1 is collaboration. So I actually like to look at what issues people raise, what issues people comment to, how people reply to other people's comments. And that really shows that you have the right attitude. Attitude is number 1. You cannot teach the right attitude. You can teach skill. If you don't know how to do something on GitHub, I can show you. But if someone has the wrong attitude, it's really difficult to teach them. So I'm looking for the right attitude. And more and more companies are looking that way as well. So that's where it's really important to get involved in the conversation. I've seen people's GitHubs where they've had amazing code, but they don't get involved in any of the conversation. And that worries me because most projects are not a one-person project. You need to have other people on the project. So attitude and collaboration is super important. Second thing I look for is, I do look at your code from today. I'm not looking at what level of quality it is at really. I'm actually looking that, is it better than what it was 3 months ago? This is why it's important to do a little and often, because I want to see how it's improved over time. I actually interviewed someone who was really good. They killed the interview. It was amazing. I was like, wow, this person's brilliant. They're a great technical person. I'm really enjoying chatting with them. And I didn't hire them. Because my last question I ask everybody said, if you looked at your code 3 months ago, would you say it's really good or really bad? Look, I look at my code like yesterday and I think, what idiot wrote that? And that's me. So I was expecting them to say, yeah, I've improved. And they actually answered with, I look at my code from 5 years ago and it's amazing. I was thinking, oh, you probably haven't learned anything in 5 years then. So that really concerns me and worries me. So I really encourage you to put your work, your documentation, your ideas, everything out there, open source on GitHub. And don't wait until it's ready. That's the biggest mistake that you can make, because for two reasons. One, it will never be ready. Either you'll finish the project and you won't want to work on it anymore because you want to work on something else, which is also fine. But it will never be ready. It's a living project. If you continue working on it, you'll notice improvements that you want to make all the time. So put it out there from day one, and other people then can see your progress and can also help you, can get involved, can make suggestions. They might not make contributions in terms of source code, but they might give you an issue and say, oh, were you aware of this library? The amount of projects I've put open source where some of them haven't got contributors in terms of code, but they've got contributors in terms of ideas. And they say, have you thought of this framework or this library? This actually solves your problem for you. I'm like, oh, I didn't know about that. That's great. Thank you so much. And the value that added, it's suddenly saved me like 2 weeks worth of work. So that adds value. I actually have one person in our community, and I'm going to show you my community in minutes. If you want to join afterwards, you can, who doesn't really contribute a lot of code to the community. But we call them eagle eyes because they review everyone's work in a polite way. It's not about bashing people down. It's about just being constructive. But they spot everything. Like they spot boundary conditions that we didn't think of. And it just saves us so many bugs in the future. And so we actually always tag that person and say, when you get a moment, please, can you review this? Because I'm thinking about this piece of work now. So it's easy for me to make changes rather than a month down the line when someone raises some weird bug and how do we get there? What happened at the time? So there's a lot of value to get fast feedback. So I want you all to think about brushing your teeth, and you're going to think, oh, Eddie's lost it now. He's really lost it. Too much lights pointing on him. He's gone crazy. But if I asked you, is brushing your teeth hard? It's not, right? You just do it without thinking. Before you go to bed or whenever you do it, you just do it without thinking. It's just something you do, takes a few minutes, it's done. And if you were really exhausted and you didn't want to brush your teeth, or you couldn't be bothered, or you slept on the couch, whatever the reason, if one day you forgot to brush your teeth, I'm sure you can agree with me, your teeth are not going to fall out. I'm sure you can agree with me, you're not going to wake up and they're all yellow. So think of open source that way, in that don't try and do 100 hours in a weekend. Just try and do little and often. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So for example, today, after this workshop, well, we're probably going to have dinner afterwards, but after dinner, just go have a look on GitHub, have a look at some projects, and I'm going to show you how you can do that. And just find something that interests you. Don't have to do anything, just find something that interests you. And then tomorrow, maybe then think of how you could get involved in the conversation, how maybe you could make a contribution. And again, not have to do anything. And the next day, get involved in the conversation. Just add a reply to a comment on an issue, or this is a great idea, I would approach this differently, etc. Whatever it is, just try and add value to it. It's not about making noise, it's about adding value. And then the day after, you might make more of a contribution, and then it will snowball. Don't wait for the right project. I guarantee you, you'll never find the perfect project if you don't start. And I also guarantee you that the project that you start contributing to now, tomorrow, this weekend, is not the project you'll be contributing to in a month. Because you will find other projects, other people, you'll network with other people, and you'll discover more things. So by getting involved, you will find the perfect project for you as well. Okay, I was looking through my notes. I'm looking at the time. I don't want to kind of preach too much. That's what everyone tells me. I preach too much. I get too excited about open source, and I don't want you to be here till Monday morning. Let's have a look. Are there any questions while I'm looking through my notes? If there are any questions, let me know. But I'm going to share my screen. We're going to look at some practical examples in a minute.
Okay, yeah. So Karambir had a question. If you can unmute yourself and ask. Okay.
Hello, sir. Eddie, can you hear me?
Yep.
So my question was, why should I use GitHub? There must be other sites similar to GitHub. What is so special about it?
That's a really good question. So thank you very much for that. So yes, there are others. There are Bitbucket, GitLabs. There are alternatives, but GitHub has become the standard for open source. It really is. And a lot of companies do use it. Government departments. I've worked for a few government departments in the UK and even high street banks, and they all use GitHub. And so it is the most popular one. But there are others. So if you do use others, they're all underpinned by Git. So the principles are the same. For example, in GitHub, we call it a pull request, and I'll show you what one is. But it's me making a change to someone else's project. And again, I will show you what that is. But on GitLab, they call it, well, I forgot what they call it now. Praveen, you're a GitLab person.
Merge request. Merge request.
Merge request. Yes, thank you.
And
so
sorry, I need to drop off now. Hope the chat and the whole thing is recorded. I'll be joining back in half an hour. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye.
Yep. Cool. Bye, Praveen.
So yeah, merge request. So they call it different things, but the principle is the same. You're still making a change to someone else's project. They're still going to review your work, and if they're happy with it, they're going to accept it. If they're not, they're going to leave a comment. So the principle is still the same. So whichever one you use, the principles are still the same. But because GitHub is really adding so many features this year and next year, you've got a lot of new features coming out, which I think is going to be a massive game changer. I'm going to use a few more buzzwords now, and I'll explain those in a minute in the next section. But for example, there are platforms like Travis CI or Circle CI, and what CI means is it's continuous integration. Every time a change is made, it runs and does a check on your code or runs automated tests. GitHub now has its own version of that. We've called GitHub Actions. And again, I'm going to show you that. So GitHub is slowly kind of bringing everybody into the fold. It even has Trello style project boards. And I want to show you that. Let me show you that. And then if I don't answer your question, ask me again in a bit, and we can dig a bit deeper.
Okay. Thank you.
Relating to this, that if you are a beginner, then how to start with GitHub and what, like, how to understand the dynamics of it, of the features.
Sorry, I missed the beginning bit. Could you say that again?
If you are a beginner, then how to start?
How to start with GitHub and the features?
Yep, I think that's the question. How do you exactly start off?
We're going to do that right now. So, without further ado, let's get started. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So this is GitHub. This is my profile, and it's customized. I'm going to show you how you can customize your profiles as well. But create an account on GitHub if you haven't got one already. It's free to do. You just need an email address, and you can get started. And I'm going to walk you through all the features and the different views of what it is. So profile picture, I highly recommend putting a profile picture. It ideally should be you, and allow it so people can kind of see your eyes, because people can then relate to your profile picture. It looks more professional, but it doesn't have to be. If you really want to keep a bit more private, then you could put a picture of your dog or another pet or something else. That's also fine, but something unique to you. Don't use a framework or a library's logo, because that's not unique to you. You want to stand out. And with your username, have it quite professional. Mine's just my name, nothing exciting, but try and keep it professional. These are future colleagues, future employers are going to be looking at this. So you want it to be professional, nothing kind of funky and rude. And give yourself a description. Definitely give yourself a description. You can change it as often as you want. And put links to your Twitter or your website, whatever you use. Definitely do that. That's all I want to say about that.
Your screen is a little bit blurry.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay, it's
Is
interesting.
this OBS by any chance?
I'm using vMix, which is similar to OBS, but interesting why it's blurry. Let me try and share via, I can share via Zoom normally if that helps, if that's better.
I think we should give that a try.
Yep. I think Nishant has a better idea.
It's like we'll just open it from our side. We'll open
Yep,
up
that's
your GitHub
fine.
profile.
Screen share, screen share.
It's on the bottom of it.
Oh, screen share, here we go. I've got so many screens, I need to decide which one to do. Okay, got it. Okay, here we go. Hopefully this is good. Did that work for everyone?
Yep.
Is
Yep.
that better?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I won't go over that again. We can go in more details if we need. And then along the top of my profile, we'll look at the top of GitHub in a second. You've got my overview, which you're probably familiar more with this view, where it's people's pinned repositories and people's activity. Right? Everyone's chasing those green squares. Everyone wants those green squares. And that's where the little and often helps, because this is the first impression people will get when they see your profile. So it is important to have regular and little and often activity on there. So do raise issues. Raising an issue will get you a green square. Having a commit, I'll show you what commit is in a bit. Is making a save point and raising pull requests all get you a green square. And that's people's first impression. So I highly recommend having that activity. And then we've got projects. I think I've got to open another tab. Yes, you've got projects. And what a project is, I think this is a bad name because a repository ends up being a project, and I'll show you what I mean. But yeah, let me pick up a project. So it's actually a project board is where they refer to it. And the idea is that you can raise an issue and you can put it in these different columns. So you can kind of, move things around and organize your project effectively, and you can close things off as you can see. And if I click this, then you can get more information about a ticket. So I highly recommend doing that. So you can do that on your account level, and you can also do it on a repo level. And let's have a look at an example, because repositories started off just being more about the code, and then they grew into having issue tracking, into project boards, into CI, into so many things, including wikis. So although we refer to it as a repo, when it's on your computer, it's a Git repo, which I'll just talk about more in a minute. But when it's on GitHub, a repo is effectively a project. Let me just pick an example. So here's one example. So in our community organization, and I'll share links at the end to these. But if you want to join our organization, you're more than welcome to join our organization and get involved in GitHub. This is what we call a repo, but it's actually more of a project because we have code, we have issues and pull requests. I'm going to go through all of these. So when you first go to a project, you see the file list and you see the README. So whatever's in readme.md, you see down here. And this formatting is all in a formatting called Markdown. And I'm going to go through the examples you need, because there's actually only 7 things you actually really need to know to make awesome Markdown content. And it's used everywhere across the site. It is used in comments, in issues, in wiki, in README. It's used everywhere. So something you must learn is the 7 commands that you need on Markdown. And I'll show you what those are. But these also are people who have customized their profiles. And there's a list here. So when people want to add, you might recognize a few names. I think Praveen is here somewhere. Here he is at the top. So you recognize some of these profiles. And if you want to add yours, you can submit a change. Again, this is like social coding is what they call it, but social anything. This is not code. This is just documentation or information. But you could just add yours to this list as well. So let's dig a bit deeper. So what else have we got here? So along the top, we have sponsors. If you want to sponsor someone, it's a bit like Patreon. Don't feel obliged, you have to do it. And then you can watch a repo. And when you watch a repo or a project, that means you get every single notification that happens on that project. So if you're really excited to get involved in all the conversation, maybe you want to watch it to begin with, but I'm pretty sure very quickly you will turn that off because you will get notifications for everything. But don't worry, if you create an issue or get involved in a discussion, GitHub will notify you for those when there are changes to those. So you don't have to watch the project to get every notification. I'm watching this one because I want to know about all the changes. When you start a project, it's like kind of like following the project in that it will appear in your feed. So if I go back to the like the github.com, this is my feed, this is my activity. So it just appears here in activity. So projects I've starred, people that I follow will appear here. And then fork, what that means is to make a change to someone else's project, you have to fork it. And this sounds quite scary, and I'm going to show you that it's not, but it allows you to take a copy of the project into your own account and make any changes that you want. And when you're ready, you can then make a pull request, which is asking the other person to say, look, I've made these changes. What do you think? Do you want to accept them back into the parent project? I didn't use the word source or origin because they actually have technical meanings. So I'm using the word parent here purposely. And we're going to run through that as well. So we've got branches. Branches comes from Git itself. GitHub just shows it, presents it visually nicely for you. And what a branch is, how a fork is a copy of the project, a branch is effectively a copy of the code or documentation, whatever's in there, these files that you see here. So there's no code here really, but a branch is a copy of that and allows you to make changes without affecting the main piece of work. And why would you want to do that? Well, it's because you might want to make small incremental changes and then only give it to everybody else when it's ready. And again, we're going to show some examples. Tags are like a save point, like it's a read-only save point. So when you make a change and you're happy with it, you make a commit, and that's a save point. It's got your name, it's got what changed. And again, I'll show you that. But a tag is a collection of commits. So if you just do make 10 changes and 10 commits and you're happy with them, you can make a tag and go, this is version 1.1. And I'm really happy with this version. It means you can always refer back to it later on. Licensing, a bit about the project, etc., and who's contributed to it. So let's dig in a bit deeper. So issue section. An issue is, it's like a ticket. So it's starting the conversation even before making any changes to the project or anything like that. It's starting a conversation. So if I create an issue here, it's got a title, and that's the only required field. And then you've got a body. And I spoke about Markdown. Maybe now's a good time to show you Markdown, because everywhere on GitHub you can use Markdown. The main 7 things you need to know about Markdown probably are, this is text, just like that, right? That's text. But you need to remember that you need a blank line if you want text to go to different lines. This is another line. That's a bit boring. Let's do something more interesting. So let's make something bold. So this is bold. So if you want to make the word bold, you wrap it around in double asterisks. There are some helpers up here, but they're not everywhere, these helpers. So it's good to learn it, and it helps you make your conversation stand out. And if I just show you some italic as well, this is italic. And italic will be single stars. And you can always click preview and see how it looks. There you go, you can see it. And then we want things like, what else have we got? List. So you've got a list, you can say item 1, item 2, and then item 3. And it just puts it in an unordered list. If you want an ordered list, then you probably guessed it. It's not that, that's wrong. It's 1, 2, 3. I'm going to show you a little bit of a hack, a cheat here. 1, 2, 3, right? That works. But what happens if I want to take this one and move it to this one? Then it's actually incorrect. So a little cheat is just label everything 1. You think, Eddie, that's crazy. Why is everything number 1? Well, GitHub's quite smart, and it will just increment them for you. So just label everything number 1. And as you move things around, you don't have to worry about that. It's still 1, 2, 3. Okay, what else have we got? Tables. I love tables. Tables is a great way to show data, or tabular data. So you can do tables. And the way to do a table is you would say you have a title. So the column 1 title, and then do another pipe. And we can have, let's say we have 2 columns. So column 2 title. And then the next line is how you want the alignment. So you have to have this line. So again, to separate the columns, you use pipe. And then the colon specifies where to put left aligned and right aligned. So this will be left aligned. And I'll do another pipe to split the column. And then I want the second column to be right aligned. So I'll do 3 dashes and then colon, and now that'll be right aligned. So we can then, and if you want centered, you could just put a colon on either side and it will be centered. So we can just say, I don't know, item 1, oh, it says 2, item 2. Right, and let's hit preview and see how that looks. There you go. You can see this is left aligned and this is right aligned. And you can do the same with center. I'm conscious of time, so I don't want to go through every possible option, but you get the idea. And then what else have we got? You want to do a link? You can do a link. A link is, and you can use normal HTML if you want to customize this further, as you'll see in example readmes for the customizing your profile page, which I highly recommend you do. You can use HTML as well. It's limited to what HTML you can use, but you can use some if you want to have a few more features. So this is a link, and it's like, I don't know, github.com. And then there you go. It's a link and you can click on it. If you want to do an image, then you need to get an image. You can put it locally or a URL. And then all you do is use the same syntax as a link, and you just put an exclamation mark at the beginning. And that's it. I have no image on there, so it won't work. But that's all you have to do. Right, I think that's most of it. Actually, there's one last thing I'd like to show on this is if we go back to the list, what's really useful is having a task list and showing your progress. So when you see, let me clear all this so you can focus. You have this, right? If you say, oh, in this issue, I want to do item 1, 2, and 3, I don't know how far you've got. Whereas if you said, I want to do items 1, 2, and 3 and put square brackets with a space, don't forget the space in the middle. And if you want to make it checked, you can put an X without, so replace the space with an X. And now you've got a tick and not ticked and not ticked. But what's even better is when you go to the issue list, we probably won't see it here. No one's done it. You get a progress bar along here. So it'll say 2, or in this case, 1 item out of 3 was done. So straight away, you can get an idea of the progress of what's happening. It's about collaboration. If I see an issue that's got 1 task out of 3 done for a few days, I might reach out to the person and say, look, anything else I can help with? So it just helps that collaboration. It's not about pointing the finger. It's not about assigning blame or anything like that. It's helping each other. Right, so that's issues. So hopefully everyone gets the idea of issues. Another thing to look at in issues, you do get a timeline underneath. As people add conversations and questions and answers and so on, and add commits to it, then you do get a timeline, which is really, really nice. I'm going to come back to pull requests in a minute because I want to do a proper demo on that. Let's jump across to projects. You saw projects already, so that's a project board that you saw a moment ago, which was here. And they can just be what we call cards, but they can also actually have links, be issues that are linked to an issue that you can get more information. So most things start off as a card. You don't get a green square for that in your profile. But when you right click and go convert to issue, you now get the full features of the issue, and you can add markdown. As you can see here, 0 out of 3. So again, the progress there is showing. So it's really, really important to make use of that. Project board, I'll show you security. It's really, GitHub's improving this more and more all the time, just so you can see what security suggestions and feedbacks they give you for your project. So do have a look at those. Insight. This is where get into the open source stuff of a repo. So you get to see the pulse of the project, who's working on what, who's the most active, who the contributors are, who's worked on it and when. But the best one is the third tab down the left, which is community. And it shows you kind of the community heartbeat of the project in that, is there a description for the project? Is there a README? Is there a code of conduct? All these sorts of things. And it's a great way for you to contribute to a project. If someone hasn't got an issue template, you could add one. If someone hasn't got a license, you could add one. And you may ask, what is an issue template? An issue template is when I opened an issue now, it had, obviously this is from before, but it had nothing in it. Whereas if I go to another project that I was going to show you, which is this one, and I go to open an issue on here, if I hit new issue, then you've got all these templates. So I can still create a blank one like before, but you've got all these templates. And if I click on it, it's now pre-populated the description with that, and then people know what to answer and can help to make it, again, more collaborative. And you probably noticed that you can assign issues to people. You could assign labels if it's a question. Invite me to the organization. Again, I mentioned if you want to get invited to an organization, just raise an issue, and you can't put the label as someone outside. So that's why it's important when you're raising an issue to actually click the right one, because if you want to get invited to the organization, you click on this one, for example, and it's already got the right label for you. It'll assign it to people who can send you the invite. Okay. We spoke about insights, and there's loads of other things down the side, but community is the one that I use a lot of the time. One tab that is a beta. It's not on all repositories yet. I know we haven't done actions and we haven't done pull requests. We'll come back to that. But there is a discussions tab that is not available on every repo. It's only available on people who have access to beta features on GitHub, like code spaces, which I can show you in a bit as well. So discussions is like an issue, but it's got threaded. So it turns it into a forum. So as you can see, all these discussions are happening. If I let me pick one, let me pick a busy-ish one. Some have been accepted, some haven't. You can see the green tick. If I pick one, and this is me, I raised this, I used Markdown in here, and you've got links and so forth. But if you look, just like the issues, people can put comments. But unlike the issues, people can then continue the conversation under each comment. So it's threaded, which is really important. This is going to be rolled out very soon to all projects. So it's coming soon. It's great to get ahead of the game and understand what's coming. Okay, let me jump to actions, and then we'll go to pull requests, because we're going to start making some changes to people's projects. So actions, I mentioned, actually, before I get into that, because these are slightly bigger areas, pull requests and actions. Do we have any questions?
I'll have to look through the chat. Anybody have questions?
Asking what is a license?
Great question. Loving these questions. Keep them coming. Questions are what I live for in these workshops. Okay, perfect. So license is great and painful at the same time, because we're techies. We don't really care about licensing and all that sort of stuff, right? It's quite complicated. But GitHub have created this amazing website called what's the URL? choosealicense.com. And they've really explained and given examples of what it is. So some licenses are more open in that people can do whatever they want. They can copy the project, they can make changes, they don't have to contribute back, they could sell it to someone else if they wanted, and they can put it in their proprietary project that they're going to sell. And some are more strict and say, no, if you're using my project, because my project is open source, if you ever want to use it, your project must also be open source as well. So you can do things like that. So there are different licenses. These are the main popular 3 licenses. MIT and GNU GPL version 3 are the most popular ones. And you can see like GIMP uses GPL. And for example, like .NET Core and Rails use MIT. So yeah, have a read of this, and you can see kind of what licenses work. I keep the ones most open, and they also include things like if you're using it in your project and you lose data or something gets broken, I'm not responsible for it. So that's why it's important to have a license, because no one can come and then try and sue you. Not that I've ever heard that happening, but it just gives you those belt and braces.
Okay.
Hopefully that answers.
Yeah. So Pratyush had a question actually. So yes, Pratyush, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Eddie sir. Hi, I just had a small question. You see when you put a pull request, then you have to get your pull request get a green tick. So
Yes.
when I did 2 or 3 pull requests, and I saw either a single tick or I get a double tick. What are those double ticks for? Look, I didn't understand those things.
That's a really
Also,
good question. Really good question.
yeah, sorry.
No, carry on. Sorry.
No, I also had one small question. What's the difference between verified PR and a normal PR? You get a tag in front of a PR, na? Verified sort of, and you don't when in some PRs. What's that difference?
That's also a very good question. So it's not with the I'll do the verified first because I think that's the simpler one. It's not with the PRs, it's with the commits. So if you look, is this the one you mean?
Yeah. That's the one.
So if someone's commit is verified, it means that they've got a security key, a GPG key on GitHub and on their Git locally. So when anyone makes a commit, like a save point, and I'm going to show you more about commit in a minute, is GitHub can verify that it came from that person. So and you can also then put passwords on these keys. So for example, if I came to your computer and I did a commit and I deleted some code and did a commit on your computer, it would be you. It would come through as you. And if you didn't realize, you'd push it up and it would be on GitHub and you could have done something bad, broken something, etc. And it wouldn't have my name, it'd have your name. So if you use a GPG key, usually you have to, when you do a commit, you have to enter a password. And so I wouldn't know your password, so I wouldn't be able to sign that commit as you. So not everyone has it. I'm sure that there's some people who don't. And on some projects, like when I worked for government or a bank, everyone's commit has to be signed. It is in GitHub. You can configure it so it rejects the commit if it's not signed. And you have to set that up yourself in that you have to have it so your commits are signed. But in most open source projects, it's not needed. I think it looks nice. I think it looks more professional. It's a good thing to have, but I wouldn't get hung up on it. It is not a necessity, especially for open source projects. So I've never seen it on an open source project where they enforce that you must be verified.
Okay, there is one more question that if it is an open source project, why does it need a license? And there was like one more question from my end that which is the license, like what is the difference between those two licenses, MIT and GNU?
Okay, so there was just on the previous question, there was about the ticks and so on. I'm going to cover this in the next section, so I'm not going to answer that now. So I'm purposely delaying my answer. But if I miss anything, let me know and we'll come back to that. So the latest question was, sorry, what's the differences between these licenses? And why do I need a license? So you don't have to have a license. It is possible not to have a license. And there's so many projects that don't have licensing. But licensing actually kind of protects you a bit. Not that anyone's ever going to go after you for anything. I've never seen it, never heard of it. Been in open source for over a decade, even before GitHub existed, and even before Git existed as an open source. Terrible times back then. Now, it's just so much better. You got different challenges now. So it's better, but you got different challenges. So yeah, you don't have to have a license. I think, let me read this out just so I can get this right as well. So I don't have all the answers. This is why I love these questions, because I'm going to read this. I'm going to learn some more myself. I have read this before a long time ago and forgotten. So MIT lets people do almost anything they want with your project. They can distribute closed source versions. So if you made an open source project, I could then take it, wrap it in my closed source project and sell it to people. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't ever, if you found out, you couldn't say, hey, Eddie, I want 20% commission, because it's really open. But then I could effectively, if something went wrong using your library, like you introduced a bug and I updated it and I lost all my clients' work and they sued me for £1 million, vice versa, I couldn't go back to you and say, hey, you owe me £1 million because my client's really pissed off. So it kind of protects both parties. And then GNU is still pretty, like GPL is still pretty open. Actually, GNU is more open in that people can't use your project in a private project. I used to use this, but I use MIT more because sometimes on my client projects, I want to use some of my open source projects in that client project. But if I put a GPL on it, I can't use it on closed source software. So just things to think about.
I have a question here.
Sure.
Like these days, MLH has been organizing a lot of hackathons, but what like the organizers have seen is that people just copy the projects out, okay, directly from repo and all those stuff. So when we are trying to participate in hackathons, what is a better license that could be used? Like, should we keep it open or closed? That's one thing. And if we are keeping it open, then which is the license that we should use here?
I would say keep it open. I would use MIT. It's really open, and it just lets people do what they want and doesn't keep you responsible. So I would highly recommend that. A lot of there are more licenses than this. So on this page now, you can see it kind of gives you a bit more information, and then you can kind of compare different ones. I mean, there's Apache, there's Mozilla, there's so many. There's even the unlicensed. There are so many things. When it comes to hackathons and so on, keep yours open. And because your project's probably going to be open source for the hackathon, you could probably use any of these licenses. It's not a problem because you're not making it closed source, you're not selling it or anything like that. So what you use is not a problem, as in what open source projects you consume, it's not a problem. And I would say keep yours as open as possible, what they call permissive. Have it as permissive as possible. And I was going to say one more thing and I forgot. I can't remember. It'll come back to me in a bit.
I think those are the questions about the licenses for now.
Okay, awesome. So let me go into the pull request section and then I can answer the previous question. I'm hoping we can get into some meatier stuff and technical stuff later on and see how we get on with time. So yeah, go on.
Someone just asked a question. How do we get beta access? And I think that's a question that's on everybody's mind, maybe.
Oh, how to get beta access to what? Like the discussions?
Yes, I guess.
That's the only one beta thing I've shown you. There is Code Spaces, which is beta as well, which is also super epic, and I can't wait to show you that. But you have to become a GitHub star. So there is the GitHub Star program. It's people who share their learnings and help other people and encourage other people to do great stuff in tech space. So these are, you can see, you probably recognize this person here. This is me. So just keep doing great stuff. And it's not like I've just started doing YouTube and started doing public speaking and then I became a GitHub star a week later. It's something I've been doing for probably like 7 years, not YouTube, but like getting involved in open source over 10 years, going to events for maybe almost 10 years, and then speaking at events like 7 years, and YouTube for the last 2-3 years. So the more and more you do for the community, the more it will help you. This is why I'm really keen to encourage everybody, all of you, and all of you can, no matter what stage you're at, even if you're like a week into understanding open source and GitHub, there is someone today who's only 1 day in. They are where you were a week ago, so you can help them. And by helping other people, you will learn more, you'll get your name out there more, and then you can join certain programs like the GitHub Stars, and you get all these beta access, lots of free swag. At least I've got boxes. I don't want to forget time. I'll show you some of the boxes I've got of just swag. Haven't even opened it yet. I'm going to do another GitHub, another video on unboxing the swag. I don't even know what's in there. Okay. But if you want to play with the beta features, you can join our organization. Again, I'll share the links towards the end, and you can ask to join our GitHub organization, and you'll have access to these beta features and just come and say hello and have a play. Just literally just say hi, start a conversation with people, and it's just all good practice. Okay, pull requests.
Yes.
Sorry, was there another question?
No, I think we can continue for now.
Okay. So for a long time, since near the beginning, pull requests is what put GitHub on the map. Because the commits that people do, so when people do commits to changes to the code, let me again show you what the commits look like. I showed you the verify. Actually, should have gone a bit more detail. So these are commits. These are like save points. This comes from Git. This is not GitHub. This can happen on any platform. It can happen locally, even without GitHub. You just need Git. And this is a commit, a save point by this person. This is by this person. And there are styles and standards you can use for your commit message, but I'm not going to go into that now. If we get time later on, at the end, we can. And what a commit is it's a save point in your changes. And you get this hash, which is unique. And this is a shortened version of the hash. It is a lot longer. But if I click on it, you can actually see what changed. So in this commit, and you'll understand why I'm talking about commit before pull request, will show what changed. So on the left, you have it so it's red. On the right, it's green. But then you see this darker green because that's what got added. And if there was anything removed, it would then be darker red as well to show you kind of what changed. And it allows you to really see what has changed on a character by character, line basis. So it's really, really important. So that's what a commit is. But then you may think, well, what's a branch? So I mentioned before, a branch is a copy of the project where you can make more commits and you can have multiple commits in the branch. And the reason why a branch is so important is when you go through to make changes, you never want to make changes in the default branch. And you may think, well, what's the default branch? When you go to a project and this is selected, whatever this is selected on, it's the default one. So in this case, it's develop. Some places it's main, some places it's prototype, beta, whatever it is. Whatever you get to, and if you click on it, it shows default next to it. You never want to make changes to that branch because you need to make changes to another branch. So when you make a pull request, which we'll do now, you can see the review happens going from one branch to the other. You know what? Let's make a pull request. Let's make a change. So a pull request will look very similar to an issue. It will have, actually, if I go to new, ignoring the branches for the moment. So you go from one branch to the other. If I just create a dummy one, it looks very similar to an issue. You have a title and a description, and you can assign it, you can label it, all the rest. Underneath, you'll see what changed between the branches. So the difference between a pull request and an issue is a pull request has code changes with it. You know what? Let's have a guinea pig. So I think if I head over to my Discord, I have an example project. So you might recognize this person. Oh, wait a second. They don't have a profile picture. What is going on? Our hosts don't have a profile picture. I think while I'm making this pull request, and they'll put a profile picture.
I'll put it up.
So you can see it looks very similar to mine, but the customized to customize your GitHub profile page to look more professional, stand out, you need to go to add new repository. And then the repository name needs to be the exact same name as your username. So in this case, Eddie Jaoude. Okay, it's going to give me an error because I've already done that on mine, and I'm going to show you the details of that in a minute. But you'll get this green box saying you found something special. So I can't create that for you, but if you create that and just hit create repo, accept the new, then it's going to give you this. So now you're allowing people to customize your profile for you. So I can then click on this, and this is the repo. This is the name of the repo. It's the same as the username because it's a special repo. And I'm going to make changes. As you can see, the readme.md not only appears on the GitHub profile, but it also appears underneath the file list. So I don't have access to this project. It's not my project. I have no access to it. But if I click on the readme or any file, you can do this for any file that exists in the project. You can hit edit. If it's your own project, you can just hit edit. But if it's someone else's project, if you look at the writing, it says fork this project and edit. So I could hit fork, and I could go and find it in my repo list under my account and then hit edit. But GitHub is so awesome and so cool, I could just hit edit. And if you read it at the top, it says you're making changes to a project you don't have access to. We've created the fork of this project for you. So they've already done that, which is great. And you'll be submitting changes in a new branch. So again, all the things I spoke about has just been done out of the box for you, which I think is awesome. So this is the README. And this is, you can probably recognize this from HTML. It's commented out. So this is like a template that GitHub gives you when you create it. And just says hi there. So I'm going to write something, I guess. Let me see, what should we write? Copy and paste the name. I'm very much a copy and paste person because I make spelling mistakes all the time. So I'm just going to put my name is welcome to my GitHub. I think that should work. Nerd. Have a look. No, it didn't. Okay, I'm not going to worry about it now. So I can preview the changes and it shows me this green bar is not going to get added to the final result, but it shows me what's changed. If I deleted something, so if I delete this and preview, in red, it will show me what got deleted. In green, it will show me what got added. And then if I change the line, like, hi there. Oops, did not mean to do that. Make that a bit bigger. Hi there. Have a great day. It will show it as orange. So you can see, oh no, actually they've made a change. It used to show it as orange, but now they show it as red and then green. Okay, see, I've learned something new again today. So thank you everyone for being here and learning with me. So yeah, that's what it looks like. You can preview it. So let me make a commit, and remember, a commit is a save point. So I haven't made a pull request yet. I'm making a commit. I'm saving what I've done. I'm happy with this, kind of. But for this situation, I'm happy with it. And it's important to write a commit message because this will show up in the log. Remember we saw all those verified? On down the left, you saw all those titles. If this just said updated README and you see updated README, updated README, updated README, it doesn't help anyone. So it's important to write something descriptive, but still concise and short. So let's have a look. What else have we got? We could do, and there's no point saying updated README or edited README. It's more why rather than what, because in the pull request, as you'll see, it will show the what. It will show what files changed. It will show what lines changed. There's no point doing that. But that's a whole probably workshop in itself into how to write the perfect commit. And I don't even have all the answers with that, to be honest. I'm always looking at other people's examples. But I'm just going to say, I don't know, improved description. That's a terrible, don't copy this. This is terrible. And you can add more details in here if you want. So I want to propose the change. So it's going to make a commit. And then now it's automatically taken me to the pull request section. And it's automatically filled in the source, what they call base repository, and the branch, because the default branch is main. And it's actually gone now saying, I want to take my changes from my repository, which is forked. So it's got the same name. And it's going to go from my branch, which is just patch 1, to GitHub. We'll just increment that patch 1, patch 2. And it will show me the changes that I made. You can see that nice and clear, really simple. I want to hit create. And now it takes me to this page. You probably recognize this page. It looks very much like an issue, but as you can see underneath, it has one commit that's unverified and the changes below. So I always recommend adding screenshots to this. There are cool things that you can do. So if I actually, let me have a look. If I go here and say view the file, I could take a screenshot, which I do highly recommend doing. And then I could drag and drop it into here as well. Or I can just click and I can go screenshots. That's the one now, enter. And then it'll just add it. So it just makes it again easier rather than people having to click around. And you can see there's a screenshot. So the project owner, the maintainer, knows nothing about my changes yet. Doesn't know anything about my changes. So because the commit is in my branch, in my repo. So if I go to my account, somewhere along here, Eddie, go to repositories. He says when it wakes up. There we go. You can see I've got my repository there. It says forked, where it came from. I have, so in the default branch, and I have the same commit as the original repo. Let me bring that across right next to each other so I can show you. And if I open the original repo as well before I make my pull request, you can see one commit 33 minutes ago. And if I go back to mine, one commit 33 minutes ago. Bring those a bit closer together. But what you'll notice in my repo, so there's only one branch, sorry, in the parent repo main. But in my repo, look, there's patch 1. And then you can see the text has changed. You can see what it looks like. So the project owner knows nothing about this. They know I forked it, but they don't know anything about my changes. So if we go to the project and create the pull request, this is me saying to the project maintainer, I've made changes. I want you to review it and I want you to accept it. They might not accept it. You still get the green squares if it's not accepted. And I'm going to talk more about how to find projects to contribute to and what are good projects to contribute to shortly. And pull requests are part of it. Not your pull requests, but ones that have already been opened and closed. So now the project maintainer has been notified and they can see the description I put in there. They can see that it's got one commit, it's verified. Checks are the CI, the automated checks. Nothing's happening at the moment. I'm going to show you actions next. So this checks ties in with actions. And then files changes, the product owner, the project owner or maintainer can see this. They can even put in comments and say, thank you. You are missing a dot. Oh, that's a good thing, actually. One markdown thing I forgot to mention is code blocks. It's really important. If I preview that, you can see the dot is like an inline block. So if you want to do inline code, you could do console.log. Hello. So this is example code. So you can do inline, but it's gray. It's not very pretty. Sometimes it makes sense. Excuse me. But if you want it to stand out, do a full code block, which is triple backtick, and close it with triple backtick, and also write the language that you're doing. Like in this case, it's JavaScript. So therefore now it's highlighted, especially when there's more lines, it's easier to read. So there's always markdown that you can use everywhere. So the project maintainer could now add this comment. I know I'm adding it, but as an example, let's just say they're adding it. And then I could write, great, I'll make that change. And then if I make a change, so let me go back to this is my fork. Look at the top, it says Eddie. And I'm in my patch one branch. Let's say I want to make another change because, I don't want to make another pull request. That's just more spam for the maintainer, but I can put a full stop. And now you'll notice GitHub gives me the option underneath. Do I commit to an existing branch or do I make a new branch? And if I make a new branch, I can give it a different name. I don't want to make a new branch. I want to commit to the same one. So therefore the pull request is updated. So if I go back to the pull request and we go to the beginning, if you'll see commit says 1 and you can see this is my commit. This is the comment. Okay, yes, it's from me. Let's pretend it's the project maintainer and then nothing underneath yet. So now if I make another change, I don't know, addressed feedback. You shouldn't write this. This is a bad example, but just as an example from the project maintainer. I commit that now. So again, a save point. I've made no new pull request. I've done nothing on the original repo, but GitHub's really smart. If I go back to this, if you look in the repo, it's not mine. It is the original, original is not what I should use, the parent, the base repo. And this is the conversation I was having. My first commit was up there, but now if you look down here, there's my new commit. And GitHub's already added it to the pull request that's open because I committed it to the same branch. And the other thing the project maintainer can look for is if they go to files changed, you can see it's got the dot at the end and that's it, right? They can see the final result. So files changed shows the final result. But if they wanted to see the individual, they can click on the first one because remember the commits are immutable. They cannot be changed. This is the first one, no dot at the end. And then if I go to the second one, you can see it has a dot at the end and it says the only thing that's been added in this one is the dot. You can see it's slightly a darker green. So there's different ways that you can look at it.
We had a question. It
Sure.
says that can we have line numbers in those code blocks that you showed there?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Can we have line numbers in those code blocks that we did in the commit part?
Can you have line numbers in the code block? No, you cannot actually. Let me just make it multiple lines, and I don't think it gets added. No, you cannot. That's a good question. GitHub, if you're watching, maybe add line numbers, but that would be quite useful. But there are things that you can do. Say, for example, let me see how I can demo this. if you want to talk about code in this chat, right, for example, you notice it says outdated because I've made a change to that line. So from this timeline, you can see that now this commit has come in. But say we wanted to continue the conversation and I wanted to refer to the changes. So I wanted to talk about the words. I wanted to say, putting it here is not very, very good if I wanted to talk about it and say in this area, because it could be a bit confusing. Another great thing that you can do, so this is why that question is great, because it made me think of something, is, oh, did not mean to do that. Where's it gone? If I open this in a new tab, this is the one. You can actually select lines, and you can actually select multiple lines. So if I select lines, it actually updates the URL to a special URL. And then in this area, I can paste it. In GitHub, he says, should, oh, maybe I need to right click. I haven't done this in ages. Oh, I've forgotten. It should give you a link where it brings in those lines. And I can't think why it's not working. And you've given me 2 more ideas. Let me just make a note of those before I forget. I will show you how to do code suggestions and diffs. This is again taking Markdown you already know to the next level. I'll show that in a second. Let me figure out why that doesn't work. I might have to do it from my repo. Let me see. Yeah, okay, let me do it from my repo, because let's see, commits. Okay, maybe they've removed that feature. I will find out and let you know, but there is a way you can select multiple lines and it gives you a way to refer those lines and it brings them in as a preview. Okay, we'll come back to that. The other thing I wanted to show was it's possible in the files changed for not only to write Markdown, but the project maintainer or someone else can make suggestions. There's a button here and it's insert a suggestion. So rather than saying, I think there should be a full stop at the end or whatever it was, they can make a suggestion. So say, for example, this is how it was originally. They could put a full stop in, or in this case, because I now have changed it, let me remove the full stop. And when the person previews it, so add single comment, you can then just click add, right? Instead of writing, you should add a full stop or whatever it is, having this conversation back and forth, which is good to have conversation. We want to have conversation on the stuff that's valuable, not on spaces missing here and so forth. You can actually make the suggestion. So therefore, the person who submitted the pull request can say, oh, I like that. Thanks. I don't have to make a commit. I can just take your suggestion and just hit add. Done. And that's it. Commit suggestion. And you can put a comment in and the commits a change. Again, that's why GitHub has stood out, because they've just made it easier and easier to do these sorts of things. I didn't have to jump back to the command line to make a change or jump back to my project in VS Code to make a change. It's all happening on GitHub, which is super, super powerful. So I showed you code suggestions. Diff, if you want to talk about something anywhere, I'm showing you this in an inline comment. You can do this in an issue. You can do this anywhere. So remember that. But if I wanted to say something, instead of doing this, instead of doing, I think you should change and then line 5 from console.log. Hello. To, let me just copy this console log. I'll just change the text. Hello world. Or bye, let's just say bye. For example, we've got this, right? This works. And I'm sure all of you agree it works. It makes sense. We know where we've got to make the change. We know what it's doing from and to, but it's more to read. So yes, there is the suggestion that you can make, but if it's in an issue, then you can't, there's no code to make the suggestion to. But you could do something like this. I could actually delete that without even having, I think you should change the line 5 or whatever. You could do this. And instead of the coding format, you put diff, and then you put minus the one you don't want, and you put plus on the one you do want. And you could have more lines there. So you could have something that is, this is the line before. So it's not involved in the diff. Look at that. That's in gray because we're not touching that. It's just to give a bit of context. But you can show that's being should be removed and that should be added. It's like really crystal clear. This is why I really, really love working with people who contribute to open source, not because they contribute to open source, but because they learn how to communicate with people around the world who are maybe on different time zones, different ways of thinking, which is great. It all adds so much value. The great thing is they communicate it in a really efficient and crystal clear way. Actually, while we're on the subject of Markdown, one last thing, I promise, one last thing on Markdown.
Hello.
So, yeah.
I have a question. So
Of course.
you were talking about the change in code, right? So instead of writing out the code snippet saying that this line is changed from line 5 changed from this point to this point. So instead of that, you gave this diff. So my question is, like, for in a place where there's a large chunk of code, there might be a place that the same line is repeated twice or thrice in the code. For example, print statement could be a same line. It could be written at twice or thrice. So if you say, if you're changing this sentence to that, this line of code from one point to another, won't it be confusing for the person to understand which line you're referring to?
So when to use this kind of like diff is more in an issue where there's no actual code has been changed. Like if you're talking about something like there is a bug, it does this, whatever this is. I think changes should be, for example, right? So I haven't made any changes, for example. If this was raised as an issue, you might do something like this, which is a bit crude, you're right, but it starts the conversation and gives a bit of context. But if it's actually in a pull request, then you would do it, you would make the comment in line. You would make it like this so people know what you're referring to. So if I update this, let me remove this now. I would do something more like the suggestion, or I'd make it actually in line to what we're talking about, so it is crystal clear. So I could, so on line 3, I've got this comment, and on line 4, I could say this line, this blank line is not needed. So when no matter how big the block of code is, this is all appearing in line down the page, so that I can see you're talking about this line up here, and then for this bit, I can see you're talking about there. So it's a really good question. So thank you very much. That has helped me improve my workshop for next time, in that I'll make sure I'm clear about where I'm talking about these things. So it's a lot of these tools and examples I'm trying to show everyone is you got to use them in the right place. And it depends on the project, depends on the people. It depends if there's code changes or not. So yeah, really good to help me clarify that. So thank you. Let me see. Okay. So that's enough about Markdown. I'm conscious of time. We've been going for quite a bit. I've got still more things to show you. Okay. We've spoken about pull requests. We've spoken about commits. We've spoken about file changes. You all know how to make a pull request now. I've shown you how to do it. So green ticks. Let me see if I can find an example. So here's a pull request, and a tip for your pull request. If you're closing an issue, if there's an issue referring, if the pull request is referring to an issue, at the top in the first line, write closes and then the issue number. So therefore, when the PR gets, PR is short for pull request, by the way, when it gets merged or closed, it automatically closes the issue. It just helps it, again, makes it easier for the maintainer. So you can see someone's put a reaction, and you can see the commits have come in. That's got a green tick, so that means it's passed in CI, and we can see the overalls all area. So it's red here because no one's reviewed the pull request and no one's approved it. And if we go to this green tick, these are the automated checks. So these are the bit that happens in the checks. You can see there's 3. This is where you can get more details, but we're going to come back to that in a second. And it's the same on the actions tab. They're all linked. This is just kind of like an overview. So they were hidden to begin with. There's 3 checks. Some projects have 1, some projects have 20. It really depends on the project. And these have all passed. And these have all passed. So this one's required, the other ones are optional. And then you can go into more details. So what are these? These are jobs that run on CI, continuous integration, and on GitHub, it's known as actions. And let's have a look at what these do. So let me go to these checks. So what they do, we've got 3. And what they do is not so important actually, but I can actually show you the code. So when you on a project, you might have a linter which checks the formatting, the spacing, the naming convention, etc. You could run that on CI, right? Rather than you saying, hey, you've named that variable not very well, or you extra space, they get a linter to do that for you. So therefore, when someone raises a pull request, it can fix all those improvements before bothering someone out. Again, it just keeps it efficient. So we have these workflows. So for example, the stale workflow runs not on an event on GitHub, it runs on a cron. On a cron. And we didn't write the action. We're actually using actions is kind of the organization that GitHub have done, and we're running the stale project, and then we're just passing it these parameters information. Let's find a more interesting one. So community, this is an action that I've actually written. And these are the events that we're triggering on. If someone creates a fork, trigger this action. If someone makes a push, but only to the develop branch, run this action. If someone creates an issue, only if they open it, not if they close it or edit it or anything like that, only if they open it. So you can filter these down as much as you want. And then we have 2 actions. One, it welcomes people. So if you want to practice, go raise an issue on our support project, for example, and it will send you a message back, issue message. It will say, it's great having you contribute to this project, etc. and so on. It'll automatically reply. And then we have a statistics one, again, which just goes into more details and try and get some statistics on our community. But you can also run tests. So if you look at the develop one, we install dependencies and we run the linter and we build. We make sure the project works. So if someone contributes to this project in a pull request, they'll know if something breaks. And therefore, before bothering the project maintainer, I'm going to find one that's broken. So here's one that's broken, for example. Can we get more information? No, now it's closed, we can't. But yeah, it failed, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It will fail all the time. If a project doesn't have an X on it occasionally, I'm worried. I feel that the action or the CI is not doing its job, but there's no way that it's going to be perfect every time. So if you have reds, don't worry. It actually looks pretty good. So hopefully pull requests and actions make sense. How's everyone doing? Is everyone still awake? I'm going to have a drink while you're thinking of your questions.
I mean, okay.
Yep. So one question that we had here is that have you tried out code spaces, and if, is it usable as an online IDE? That was the question.
Okay, code spaces, right? Okay, let's put that question on hold for a few minutes. Let's see if there's any questions related to pull requests and actions, and then we'll jump into code spaces. And one thing I just want to add to actions, there is a massive marketplace for actions. So you can publish your where's the tab on? You can publish your actions in the marketplace. Here we go. So there are marketplace for apps and for actions, and you can charge for it. Most of them are free. That there's over 5,500 actions that you can use, connecting to Slack, to Jira. Who uses Jira? But to loads of other stuff. So there are all these actions, and they're all open source. You actually see what is going on. Sorry, yes. Is there any questions related to pull requests or actions? And then we'll get into code spaces. No?
One question is that what happens when one asks for pull request? What is the reason for making a pull request? So that is open source part, I guess.
Yeah, so pull requests are done on open source and also in closed source. So even for my clients, like I said, high street banks or government departments, the entire team are making pull requests. The project isn't open source. So for example, you couldn't see it, but everyone in the team can see the project and everyone's work gets reviewed. It doesn't matter if you're writing automated tests, writing documentation. It's a pull request should be a feature of work and it should be ready for review. You can put a pull request in draft if it's not ready, but you want to get a bit of feedback. So again, for example, so it's a pull request is making changes to the project. But if when you raise a pull request, it means you're happy with it, you're ready for it, and you want it to get reviewed. But if you want to get early feedback, which I highly, highly recommend, get feedback when you can. Obviously, not too much to distract somebody else, but convert it to a draft pull request. There's a button right here, and then it will change to convert it to out of draft. And the idea is that you can raise a pull request, you get all the same features, you get the files changed, etc. But you can send it to a colleague, or you can at a colleague and say, for example, at whoever, hey, look, I haven't finished my pull request, but can you have a look at this section, please? Because I just wanted to get some feedback before I move further along, before you go down that rabbit hole. So it's about making changes to the project. And the best pull requests, if I can give you some pull request tips, is they're small. I don't want them big. They're going to take me longer to review and a lot harder work. So keep them small. They're going to do one thing. Like if you're improving documentation in one area, that should be the pull request. If you're improving formatting in another area, that's a different pull request because that's a formatting pull request. That's not like a content change. Like keep it focused. Use draft, tag people, put some description in there. And also, if you're doing a feature, it's a code change and there are automated tests in the project, there's documentation in the project, make sure that feature, that pull request contains everything. So when someone's reviewing your code changes, they're also reviewing your automated tests, they're also reviewing your documentation, because then it makes sure that feature is compact and got everything together with it. Also, if you ever want to pull out that feature in the future, after it's been merged, you can pull everything out together. And it helps with knowledge transfer. Someone who might be reviewing your project can now also learn about the documentation or learn more about the feature. So it's really, really important to do that.
These days we have Hackclub going on. So since you said this thing, like the pull request must be small. So I had a doubt. So what is the right time to create a pull request when we are working on the open source codes and all those parts? So when is the right time to make a pull request so that it's a valid pull request and it doesn't seem like a spammy pull request?
It's a really good question. What I want to suggest is we do the couple of last things on GitHub, and then we'll get into Hacktoberfest. We'll look at how to find repos, how to make a pull request that adds value and so on, if that's okay.
Okay.
So if there's no more questions on like the pull request functionality, we'll get into how to make a good one for Hacktoberfest and so on in a second. And in GitHub Actions. Yes.
Actually, I just wanted to request one thing from you. This is actually that I am a pretty new. This is a very new thing for me, GitHub. So it is difficult for me to keep up with the pull request issues and other things that you are covering. A small recap in the end would be good, but I know your time constraint. So if you can, please do a small recap of pull request issues, commits, and a few other things.
That's a great idea. I have that in my notes to do in the conclusion. I think we've got about 30 minutes left. Is that correct?
Yes.
We could extend the session though.
So I think it'd be too much information for people. They'll probably get quite tired. It's probably better to have a follow-up session in the future. So for now, if we've got about 30 minutes, what I'll do is I'll spend another 5 minutes on GitHub, and then we'll go into Hacktoberfest, and then we'll do a recap of all the GitHub features, just a real light touch to show you where to look, if that's okay. I'll make a note as well. Okay, so I've got a note, so I won't forget. I will do a recap of all the features, and probably not all the features. Maybe I'll mention the features, but show you which features you should pay attention to if you're new to it, because a lot of them you don't need to pay attention to straight away. I think it is very overwhelming. Imagine when I came to GitHub, there was only code. Actually, there was no tabs because all it was viewing kind of the Git code. and then it became issues, and it became pull requests, and now you've increased loads. So yeah, it's very, very overwhelming. The one tab I didn't mention yet is the wiki, and there's a reason why I didn't mention that. So we all know what a wiki is, and actually on GitHub, a wiki is actually just a Git repo underneath. So you can actually clone it, you can make changes to it locally, you can push it up. The reason why I didn't mention it, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, is because I'm not a huge fan of it anymore. I used to love it for documentation, but I'm not a huge fan anymore, because although you'll be doing commits, you'll be doing all the same things that you did in the with the under the code tab, you can't do a pull request with it. So someone could make a change, it could be incorrect, doesn't get reviewed, so you don't get knowledge transfer. So what I've been doing now, I've been recommending to all my clients and to everyone else, that you just have, okay, this project doesn't have it, for example, but you have a docs folder, and in the docs folder is where you put the documentation rather than using the wiki. You can just use Markdown to make it look like this, for example. The reason why you put it in the main code base rather than the wiki section is someone can make improvements to it by raising a pull request. People can get knowledge transfer from it, just like I said. So that's why I'm not going to spend too much time on the wiki. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to turn off the wiki. I think I can turn off some things in here. Wiki. Here we go. Features for my repo. Wiki is going off. Now you can see the tab's gone. I don't think the wiki is useful. Right. Okay. So code spaces. Let's have a quick look. If I click on
Eddie?
this. Yes.
Eddie, can you hear us?
Yes.
Eddie, your internet connection just got unstable, so we missed whatever you just said.
Oh no. Okay. What was the last thing you heard?
You were talking
The
about
starting
why
of
you don't.
wikis.
Yep.
Wikis, then that they're like a mini repository, that stuff.
Ah, okay, got you. So the wiki tab, which I've now removed. Let me find another one.
And then you
I
started talking about code spaces, right?
I was going to go into code spaces, but if people missed what I said about wiki, I can quickly recap. So the wiki is effectively a Git repo underneath. So you can clone it, you can make changes to it, you commit, you get versions, you can jump back. I mean, I could spend a whole workshop on Git itself and how amazing it is. But the reason why I don't use the wiki is I think it's better to have a docs folder or documents folder in the repo, because although it's still using Git, you're still making commits, just like in the wiki. When it goes into this section, you can make pull requests and other people can contribute to it. People can get knowledge transfer and people can review it. So it's really, so I think it's more important to use this. That's why I no longer use the wiki. Code spaces. Apparently I have no active code spaces. So let's make one. So if you go to one of my repos, let's have a look at this repo. Right. So this is a project that I've got. It's got quite a few contributors. It's just tips. And it's written in Markdown, and there's a website for it. It uses GitHub Pages. It's free hosting on GitHub Pages, so I really recommend using that. And I create a PDF as well from the docs. But what I want to show you is code spaces. So the reason why I mention what this project's about is because in this project, if you look, I think it says it here in the docs, quick start, you need to install ASCII Doctor. But to install it, it's actually really bad documentation because you need Ruby. And I don't have Ruby installed. I'm not a Ruby developer, although I use this library because I like ASCII Doctor, but I don't have Ruby installed. So if I was, this is my project, and if I was to clone it locally so I can make changes, and I want to see what the changes did to the website and to the PDF, I'd have to install Ruby. And I'll probably have another problem, probably the wrong version of Ruby. And I'll have to like update or downgrade or upgrade or whatever is needed. So wouldn't it be great if I could go to any project? This is why Codespaces is going to be a game changer for open source. You can go to any project that uses any technology and have it just work on GitHub. So what I do, go to code. You've probably seen this before. You've got clone over SSH, HTTP, etc. Open GitHub desktop, download the zip. What do I have here? Codespaces. I click on Codespaces. let's, this is actually not going to work because I'd used dot files. And I've just broken my dot files. Let me change my dot files. So code spaces allows you to create an entire development environment using Mongo, Ruby, PHP, Java, JavaScript, whatever you want in GitHub. And then you can use the VS Code in the browser. And if you don't want to use the VS Code in the browser, you can use your VS Code locally and have it connect to GitHub. So behind the scenes, it's running all the Docker containers and you can have Mongo as dependencies and so on. The reason why I say mine won't work, I just remembered, is because I have just started moving to dot files. I don't want to go into dot files too much, but dot files allows you to configure your computers, your laptop, your computer, your Linux, Mac, whatever it is, by using these configuration files. But the great thing about it is I can install all my VS Code plugins, all my NPM dependencies for like global dependencies that I have, all my Git profile, everything, my Vim configuration. I even have Vim configuration. Rather than me copying and pasting this between project to project, I could just have this one repo. And the reason why this breaks code spaces is because I've broken something in here, and code spaces reads dot files. So it configures it to be like your local development environment. Like how awesome is that? You're versioning your development environment. So if I want to make a change, like if I go to my VS Code, I've got all these plugins installed and I go, you know what, actually, I don't want this one anymore. I can just delete it from here and it will remove it from all my laptop, my computer, and even my code spaces. I mean, this is just like epic, but I've busted it recently. So my code spaces will fail because I've got something that doesn't work in my dot files. So let me talk about it rather than demo. There isn't a lot to demo anyway, because I think the game changer of it is when it becomes, or if people really want to see a demo, I can probably rename this repo for remote temporarily if people really want to see it. Dot files, I don't know, just temp. I'll rename it and I can rename it back afterwards. I thought it shouldn't pick up that that's a dot files thing. Let's have a look. Okay, so code, open code spaces. Do not read that repo. Do not read it. Let's have a look. Don't break. And you'll see this looks like VS Code. And the idea is when I use this is looking promising, it hasn't broken yet. The reason why I want to use my dot files, and I highly recommend it, is because I didn't want to have to install plugins on the VS Code in this environment. I didn't want to have to install, I use in my terminal, I can't show you, but in my terminal, I use ZSH to have it to highlight what my branches are and stuff in my terminal. Actually, I might try and show you. Move this over. Oh yeah, here we go. I can show you this. So you can see that I've got, it's very small. Don't worry about actually reading it, but it tells me what branch I'm in, for example, and all these other sorts of things. So I like having that as my terminal. But I want that to be in code spaces as well. I don't want to have to configure it every time. So that's why I've moved to dot files. So I haven't used code spaces loads because I think it's where the collaboration comes in. But when I have used it, it's been really impressive. The first time you boot it up, it does take time. It does take time. You can see it's installing Ruby, it's installing various other dependencies for the project. But I don't have to have it locally, and I can use VS Code locally. So this is, I believe, is going to be a game changer. Like if one of you wanted to come contribute to my project, you wouldn't have to install everything. You would have it all already there in the browser, and then you can just jump between laptop or computer to computer and not worrying about having it all. Like the amount of times I see on GitHub WIP, WIP, which is a commit, which means work in progress, because people are moving between computer to computer, and I hate that. So doing this just removes that issue. So this is code spaces. It's literally just VS Code in the browser. You get all the same things. You get source control. So if I made a change to this, for example, and save it, now you can see this. It can give you the diff of what's changed. Just like VS Code locally, search files, and you can install things. This is actually installed ASCII docs, which is great. But I hasn't installed all my other stuff that I use. So again, that's where dot files have come in, and I can do I can have this browsing locally if I wanted to, and you can install live code share to collaborate with people as well.
Just a reminder, only 15 minutes are left from
okay.
the second time.
Okay, thank you.
So Eddie,
yeah.
I just have a small question. It's more like a clarification. So
Sure.
these dot files that you were speaking about, is it something like package.json or something? Like when
It's
you code
yes,
in SAS code or something?
it's very, very similar. Yeah. So if I
I
can
see,
find
I
that
see.
tab, here you go. It is very, very similar. And so the idea is like I'm on a the idea is so for example, if I go to my npms, I have some npm packages that I install globally on all my machines. For example, I use Firebase tools and I use Mermaid. Mermaid allows you to draw graphs from code, like flow diagrams and so on. So therefore you can version it rather than having binaries where if someone wants to make a change, they haven't got the right program to use it. And so I use that. And so this will just have these two npm packages installed on all my machines, including code spaces. That's why dot files is like, yeah, really, really awesome. I must remember to just quickly rename that. Otherwise, when it does, when I'm trying to push the repository and it's not working, I'm like, why is this not working? And I would have forgotten that I renamed it. So yeah, so I highly recommend looking into dot files. It is quite overwhelming. My project's open source. You have a look at it, see what works for you. I've got Brew, which is Mac specific. So you might steal some other ideas. You might not take my Brew config because it's for Mac. But you might go have a look at how I manage my Vim stuff or my VS code and so forth. So something to look into. Right, as mentioned, we've only got 15 minutes left, so I really want to get into Hacktoberfest and t-shirts and that sort of stuff. Wow, time flies when you're having fun. Okay, Hacktoberfest. So Hacktoberfest, you probably all know about it, is about contributing 4 pull requests to open source, and it has to be good pull requests. So back in previous years, and actually the first day of October, it was every project is in Hacktoberfest. However, because so many people did spammy pull requests, actually, I've got a video on this. You should check it out. I'm not gonna play it or anything like that now. I'll share a link later on. But I've got this here, Hacktoberfest fails. And then there's me holding a t-shirt with a TDD written on it, which usually stands for test-driven development, which means you write tests first before you write the code. But it actually says t-shirt driven development because that's what people were doing. And you'll see from that video some really, really funny pull requests, which were people literally doing this. Oh, I want to make a contribution and raise a pull request. Smashing the keyboard. And people were getting really annoyed with all the notifications they were getting and not adding any value. Actually, it's actually adding less negative value because you're distracting the person. So don't do that. And then if you see things like this, for example, like this has got a dot on the end, and so has this got a dot on the end, so is that. It's actually one missing one though. Like say, for example, if one was missing one, I would see that as an improvement. I'm really passionate about consistency, but I know a lot of people will just see that as spam. So I think previously they wouldn't have done, but as of what's happened, they will. So yeah, think about the value. And if you were the project maintainer, would you want it? So what happened on the second day of Hacktoberfest, the second day of this month, projects have to opt in. So if I go to GitHub, you'll see this has not got a topic of Hacktoberfest. So it's not an opt-in project. Although I should make it an opt-in project, so I'll be happy to get some improvements to that. But this one, for example, it's got Hacktoberfest topic. So therefore, pull requests to this project will be counted towards Hacktoberfest. So how can you find projects to contribute to? And on the top here, again, this is another GitHub feature, but I'll do it kind of quickly. There's issues. These are, actually, you can see how to raise an issue 4 days ago. Eddie's dot files breaks code spaces with a, I don't know. So anyone wants to fix that for me, more than happy to have a look. But you got the created, assigned, mentioned, etc. But what I want to show you, got these labels. So if I click one and it's got good first issue, if I remove all the other search filters and just search by good first issue, you can now see it searching all of GitHub, not just my issues that I've created or signed or mentioned. It's searching all of GitHub. These are projects I've never heard of, never seen. And you can do various filters if you want, and you can see some of them have Hacktoberfest labels on. And then, you could filter by 2 things if you wanted to. So you'd have to kind of copy it, paste it, and then write, I want good first issue and I want Hacktoberfest. I spelled Hacktoberfest wrong. I think I did. Hacktoberfest. Someone else has spelled it wrong as well. So there's an issue you can raise. You can get your green square and say, look, you've raised it wrong because I spelled it wrong. I've actually found Hacktoberfest. Right? That looks about right, doesn't it? I think so. So you can see we've got good first issue and Hacktoberfest on the repos. So you can filter by this. When you go to a project, let me pick one. The one thing I recommend, don't waste your time and effort contributing to projects that aren't inclusive. And what I mean by that is have a look at the issues, but not their open ones. Look at the open ones to see what you can contribute to. But before you even look at that, the first thing that you should do is to their closed ones. Have a look at some of the comments that people have made. So this one's got 5 comments. Have a look. Are the project maintainers trying to help the person succeed? I always try and help someone in my pull requests to succeed. Like they've made an effort, they want to help. And if I help them learn, then they'll probably contribute more in the future. So it's all about kind of investing in each other. So have a look. Does that look nice? Or has the maintainer just gone, oh, this is rubbish, go away? Then you're not going to want to contribute to that project. Have a look at the ones that have no comments. Was it closed by the author of it? Yes, it was. So it's okay. Or was it closed by the project maintainer without leaving a comment? Because that's kind of rude and they're not very inclusive. And then go do the same thing for pull requests. Go to the closed pull requests and have a look at the ones that were closed. So these are all being merged because they've got the purple icon. If there's a red icon, have a look at more of the red ones. It's the ones that have been closed. They write, thank you very much for your pull request, but this is not something we want in our project. Why don't you have a look at issue 1, 2, 3 or whatever? You know, they give some suggestions how to get involved. That's fine. But if they've just closed it with no comment, no nothing, you probably don't want to invest your time understanding the project and getting involved. It's probably a waste of time. So once you've found a project that looks nice and you want to contribute to, remember, add value. So make sure you raise an issue first. If you either find an issue that you want to contribute to and put a comment in saying you'd like to do it. And if you do that, don't forget about it for a month and just hog that issue. Or don't write in 10 issues. I want this one. I want this one. I want this one. I want this one, and just hold them, because again, it's not the community collaborative spirit. If there's an issue open already, write a comment that you want to do it. And if there isn't one, then raise an issue and say you want to do it. Talk about what changes you would like to make, and then get a way to get some feedback and then make those changes. And I mean, think it's about adding a value. And if the more value you add to a project, not just in terms of changes, like for example, we have some people in our community who have got involved in the conversation and put comments saying, oh, I like this idea, for example, can you explain some more? Or have you thought about doing this? And then when it came to Hacktoberfest and they said, I want to contribute, but I haven't done it before, can someone help me? Everyone went to help them because they had been adding value for so much time. So again, don't think of it as a sprint, think of it as a marathon. If you can add value to a project in any way you can, then when you need help, people are going to help. Like, for example, we have some people who are new to tech in our community. And when someone raises a bug, they just verify that the bug's a bug. They go, oh, I tried it in Safari or Opera, and I got the same issue. It was version 12. And that shows that it's just the bug isn't just for one person or that one browser, right? Or someone else says, oh, it works for me in Chrome version 24. Brilliant. That's adding value. So when that person says, I need help with this, I want to contribute to your project, but can someone help me do this? Everyone jumps to help them because they add value. So don't over-engineer it. Don't think a pull request has to be massive. Actually get some contributions where people have made a good contribution. They raise the pull request. I approve it, but I haven't merged it yet. And then you add a whole load of other stuff. I'm like, it was approved. I was going to merge it when I got back to my computer. Why were you cramming in loads of other stuff? Oh, it was only 4 lines long. I wanted to make it look more impressive, so I've just changed all this other stuff. Those other stuff changes are great, but it should happen in another pull request because it's separate. And so keep it focused on one thing. And pull requests aren't about size. It is about the value that it adds. Okay, and we've only got like kind of 5 minutes left, so I'm hopefully just going to leave time for questions.
Guys, you can either ask your questions by unmuting or just put it up in the chat box. We are monitoring it. So if you have any questions, go ahead.
So, Karma, do you have the list of questions?
Yeah, 1 second, and that's what I'm opening.
Oh, I know. Sorry, one question was GitHub feature recap. So I want to do that as well. So I need a couple of minutes to do that. I can do that in a minute.
Okay.
Hopefully people have found that useful. Hopefully people are loving open source and loving GitHub now.
Eddie
Question here.
from Avito. Should I get, so he's asking whether he should get stronger in his programming language, because most of the GitHub repos, they have some very advanced stuff. So he wants to know, I mean, what he has to do in order to be able to contribute.
You don't have to, you will naturally get stronger. So you don't have to wait to get stronger. For example, if, bring up one of our projects, it says, like even in our support project, for example, this is where we send people to raise discussions, to start issues and so forth. I'm sure this can be improved. And if I was to improve it, it's going to be from my view of knowing what this repo is about. So everyone watching, I want you, and you can add so much value to this, right? What I would love, what would add value to our community, not my community, our community is join our community. And what doesn't make sense? Find out, ask the question, and then improve the documentation, make it easier for the next person. We have, for example, a website, and it was built in HTML just to begin with Tailwind CSS. And then someone suggested, oh, I want to do, it was Svelte to remove duplication. So they've made those improvements. But I'm sure some of these documentations can be improved. And also, someone has started writing automated tests. As you can see, this is how it looks in Cypress. It checks that certain elements appear in the browser. So that you can add more automated tests to this. So we don't check everything at the moment. We only check a few things. You could add more. And you may think, well, I don't know much about testing. But if you have a look at some of the tests, you're going to see how straightforward it is. This is the great thing about a lot of the tools we have nowadays is, well, not support, that they are abstracted away a lot. So if you look at some of the tests, I mean, that looks like it's written in English to me. So this is add great value. So at the moment we check, does the homepage title work? Does the project titles contain an ID? Do the links work? You could just grab one of these, make a copy, add another line and check something else, because it's all written in English, our tests, and CI will run it. So if you make a mistake, it will tell you if it's wrong. And you can also run it locally. So there are so many improvements, so much value you can add. And if you wanted to get involved in the automated testing, but documentation wasn't very good, like it was missing a step, then let's solve the step. You can add it to the documentation as your first pull request. Now you've got it running and working locally. You can then add some more tests to make some improvements. And you could also add, like another great example, there's actually an issue here. Oops, the wrong thing. Someone raised an issue, which is accessibility. They want to add accessibility tests to our project. And there is actually a plugin that can be added to Cypress. So we've put a link into it already. And what you would have to do, it tells you some of the config you'd have to do. And you could add that. Again, that's just adding value. It's not about adding a new feature. It's about adding value to the project. So you could look at what issues people have raised, but also look at with your fresh pair of eyes, what doesn't make sense here. Like that's called Cypress. Should we rename that test? Is that more descriptive? I think so. Please raise an issue, rename it, and update the config. I think the config is somewhere down here. So you just need to rename the configs and stuff, rename the file, so rename the folder and update the config. That adds value to me. If you're not sure if you should make that change, raise an issue. You'll get a green square for raising an issue. The worst thing that will happen is someone writes, no, thank you, and closes the issue. You'll still be alive. You'll be fine. I promise it will not affect your job future opportunities. It will actually help your job opportunities. I promise you will sleep just fine that night. And I promise you the sun will rise the next morning as it would normally. So just get involved. Obviously, if you're creating issue, like 100 issues and they're not adding value, then that's a bit spammy. But if you're raising a few issues with ideas, that adds value because someone might not have thought of something. You'd probably raise something that we haven't thought of. And that adds value. It might not be something we want to do now, but at least we're aware of it and we can think about it and plan for it in the future. So please add value. And the only way you can add value is by getting involved. Yes.
That someone wants tips on how to find issues on GitHub. Like what are the issues that are relevant to them? They can contribute to.
So going back to the issue tab on the top, this is the best way to find issues. Go to the tab along the link along the top, issues, and then put in the top here. Oh, too many. Let me delete some. And put in the search box, label good first issue. That is the best way to get in, because good first issue is project maintainers who are trying to bring new people into their projects. So these are usually well documented in the issue with good description, good steps to follow. Therefore, you can kind of succeed and then you can pick up new ones. The only thing I suggest you don't do is go to a project and then completely do all the good first issues because they're quick, easy wins, and then leave the project and go to the next one, because that'll become obvious on your profile and look very, very bad. It will just show that you're just helping yourself and not helping other people. So do some good first issues, but don't only do those like in a month's time or whatever. Don't continue doing those. You want to stretch your skills, and you want to improve your GitHub profile. So definitely start off with that. Good first. They might be different color. Good first issue here is green. Here it's purple. Don't worry about the colors too much. They're project specific. But do have a look at that. Well, there's Hacktoberfest as well. I don't know how difficult these are, but I know good first issue is usually for getting new people into the project. I just want 2 minutes just to quickly recap over GitHub, if that's okay. I know that was a question from earlier. So you've got the code tab on the top. This is the folders and files. You can see all the commits, or you can see the latest commit. And the commit, remember, is a save point of all the files that changed in that commit. So I'll quickly show you one. It shows you what changed in that commit, who it was, etc., and so on. The readme.md will appear at the bottom. I recommend, if you're creating a project, definitely have a readme.md. It's case sensitive, have it capitals, keep it the same. Issues is where you log issues. If you're working on a project just for you, raise issues. You'll get the green squares. You'll encourage other people to get involved in your project. So raise issues even for your own project if it's just you working on it. Add labels. It's a good way to practice to maintain a project. So if when you go work on a project for a company, you could appreciate this. You can make good suggestions because you've been through the process yourself. So do have a play with it. There are milestones where you can kind of group issues together. Pull request is when you're making changes to other people's projects, or you're making changes to a project that you're on, but you want someone else to review it. Remember, pull requests are from branch to branch. If you want to go via a pull request, never make changes to the default branch, even if it's your own project. Actions runs on every change to the project, or you can even do more on GitHub in terms of if an issue is raised, etc. But usually it's when a new commit or new pull request is created, actions will run and will do checks depending on how it's being configured to. And don't get scared by actions. It is just YAML config. So definitely get familiar with the code tab and the issue tab and the pull request tab. Once you're familiar with that, look at the actions tab. Projects, a lot of GitHub projects don't use the project boards because they don't know about it, but do have a look at that. It is just collecting up issues into, I haven't got one on this project, but collecting up issues into the columns, remember, that we spoke about. So do create one, have a practice. You can use templates like Kanban is the to-do in progress, done. And that's it. I mean, don't worry too much about the other tabs for now. Those are the main ones. Do have a look, have a play. Remember, on GitHub, you cannot do anything wrong. If you create a pull request, deleting all the project's code, they can just close it and no one will get hurt. So not that I recommend doing that, but don't worry, just do try. The other big suggestion I do want to make is when you're making a commit locally on the command line or using a GUI or using VS Code on your computer, check the files that you're committing. The amount of people that commit passwords and private keys and temporary files that their computer generates, it looks really unprofessional. So just make sure before you do the commit, check what you're committing. How are questions looking? I'll go on till Monday and we all need to get some dinner.
Yeah, Eddie, I think in somewhere in the beginning you mentioned something about Trello and GitHub, some sort of integration. Because I personally use Trello for my Kanban boards and everything. So about that.
Yeah, let me find that. So it's not an integration. It's GitHub have built their own kind of Trello board. So actually, let me go back to my
Oh,
So the project board is the Trello equivalent. So it's not an integration. So under every repo and under your account, you have this tabs project, and you can create a project, and it looks like Trello, is what I was trying to say. So these are issues. So these actually link to issues, and you can get more information on them. But use this to help plan like what you're working on. As you can see, I've put this into progress, but I actually haven't completed any of the tasks out of it. It's 0 out of 3. Do have a look at the project board. It is like Trello. More and more projects, including companies, are trying not to use all these different tools like GitHub for the repo, Trello for the task tracking, Jira for task tracking, Circle CI for CI. GitHub is having all these features added. And the great thing about them is you can link things together. So when someone does a commit, if they put the issue number in it, so if I go to an issue, it links it all together. So for example, someone has done a commit, it now links things together. Like the pull request is now linked to the issue. So you can kind of navigate between the pull request, the issue, the code really easily. That's why GitHub are bringing all these features. That's why I highly recommend getting familiar with them, because as someone rightfully said, open source is eating the world, and the winning team is GitHub, and I think they're backed by Microsoft, so they're doing really, really well, doing some awesome stuff, and so I think definitely get familiar with it. I'm not saying other projects won't use other tools, but the uptake on GitHub is enormous. It really, really is.
Karma.
Any other questions anybody has here? Okay. So there's a question from Desh Deepak. It says, do you think alternative like GitLab will take over GitHub?
Honestly, no. People have been saying that for so many years, and GitLab being open source itself, the platform is really nice. I think that's really, really good. As much as I love GitHub and so on, one of my pain points is it's not an open source platform. The platform itself is not open source. But people have been saying that for ages, and unfortunately, GitLab will not. I really don't believe it will overtake GitHub, because although back in the day, like, I don't know, say 5 years ago, they were a lot closer, the gap has got a lot bigger. GitHub has really pulled ahead. And this year and next year with the new features coming out, I can't talk about some of those features because I signed an NDA to work with the GitHub team. But it's going to even accelerate the gap even further. So I don't think so. I want to stop sharing my screen so I can see everyone, but I don't know how to do that.
Shall we take a quick screenshot as well for everyone, whoever has?
Oh, great idea.
Switching on the camera.
Yeah, how do I stop sharing my screen though?
Dude.
It's in the same spot. Same spot where you.
Wait, Eddie, are you kidding?
Because I don't use Zoom. I live stream
okay,
on YouTube.
Okay. There is a floating bar on the top.
The floating bar doesn't have anything. It's empty.
Is it empty? Guys, can you? I mean, if you are a host, I mean the co-host, just click on that stop share from the
please do that.
I'll stop his share. I'll stop his share. I stopped Eddie's
share. Perfect. Now, yes, the window works now. Thank you.
Okay.
They should open source Zoom and they should give it. No,
they shouldn't open source.
They should seriously consider doing that.
Zoom shouldn't be open sourced because it's terrible. Did you not hear about all the security issues where they try and get around some?
That is the real point why I say that it should be open source.
True, but then I think it's so bad. I don't like Zoom. But you're right.
Right.
The open source it would make it better. You are right.
See,
It's
the
true.
problem is Zoom is the
Siddhu-
only application which is stable for me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, WebRTC doesn't work. It is unstable,
Well-
and my system goes more than 70 degrees Celsius. So
Okay. Fair enough. You've got 2 pages. That's awesome.
I agree. Discord is OP. Discord.
Discord for the win. Yeah.
Discord is
Yeah,
good,
Oh my
but
God.
again, WebRTC sucks. Sorry about that.
I've taken some screenshots as well. I don't know if other people want to take screenshots as well too, but that's awesome. It's
I
such an
guess
honor to
more-
be here with you all.
More people are like opening up their cameras.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, give us a
Manav,
wave.
you're not seen.
Let me get my GitHub teddy bear thing. One sec.
Yes.
I'll switch on my video as well, but it looks like a black screen. That's it.
Ah,
Security.
yes. Manav's video is not seen for some reason.
Definitely, it's hard to get everyone. Cisco WebEx is good, but people who are using missions other than Windows, Cisco WebEx is also not a good choice. And moreover, Zoom has like really awesome features. Like, see, you can screen record, you can screen share. It's like the team viewer plus Skype setup plus recorder. I mean, literally everything is there in Zoom. Like, what is not there?
Yeah, breakout rooms.
There you go.
It's like the best thing ever.
Eddie, why do you hate Zoom?
There's a few tools that I hate. Atlassian products like Jira, Zoom. Those are and Windows. Those are the worst ones.
Yeah, I don't.
What's that?
I go with Windows, but seriously, why Jira and Zoom? I mean, why?
'Cause they all fit in the same category. How can I explain it in one word? The shit. That's to put it politely.
There should be. See, Eddie, when you say there should be a good reason.
True. Okay.
All right.
Let me know when you're ready. I'll have my friend here as well. And look, my office is such a mess. I have to apologize, everyone, if you look.
I'm
what
just
a messy
waiting for the
office.
first page fully to
The
get
screen.
filled up
Hello?
with cameras. But it's just been like
Oh my God.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows so far.
I don't think the other people actually want to switch on their.
I mean, whoever switches on, their
Cam.
faces come first. So let it fill the whole page.
You
At
can
least
hide
50 people.
non-video participants if you want.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can do that.
You can hide the non-video participants, Praveen.
No. I understand that, but I was just thinking like a lot of people switching on their cameras. That would be really nice.
A lot of people are camera shy.
Oh, I need to share some links. While they're doing that as well, let me share some links to if people
that's a
want to
good
join the
question.
GitHub organization and stuff. Join us on GitHub.
So
Obviously,
Eddie,
my
your
YouTube channel.
Yes, who
your desk setup is more
he
like
was
a
standing
standing
the
type.
entire time.
Oh,
Oh yeah, it's a really good question. So this is a temporary office. My office downstairs had a water leak, so the floor's being redone. So usually this Windows computer that runs my live streams and my camera setup would be on top. But I'll usually be a sitting desk. I've got a standing desk because my desk downstairs is fitted into the wall, so I couldn't remove it. So I've just got like a temporary desk. But I really like standing. Like I really enjoy my standing desk actually. Okay, when it gets to mid-afternoon, I hate it. But in the morning, I'm like, yeah, standing desk. I can move around, I can dance. In the afternoon, I'm like, oh. And I get a stool and I'm like this, looking up at like my screen. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess. But what you see behind me is a green screen. That is not my office. I wish it was.
Yep.
Okay, I took a screenshot. Did anyone else take one?
Praveen, did you take a screenshot?
I took like around 20, 30 screenshots.
Okay, how was my hair in those? Hopefully it was okay. Is it just reading that comment, is it Nipun? Did I pronounce that right? I knew it was a green screen. It was too organized. That's so true. I need to go get another green screen picture that's messier. You're right. It's too perfect. Absolutely right. That's a good giveaway. Absolutely good giveaway. So I'm going to give myself, my YouTube channel, a shout out. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm doing a live stream tomorrow at probably, I'm going to organize it today, but probably 1 p.m. UK time tomorrow, which I think is 5:30 IST. We're going to be reviewing GitHub open source project. So if you want me to have a look at your project, raise an issue on the support repo. And one of those options was join our organization. Another option is review my open source project and just put a link to it into there. And we'll give it a shout out and we'll just have a look. And we're not there to slate it or anything else. We're there to kind of big it up, maybe make a few pull requests to your project. So yeah, if you subscribe to my channel, it's free. You'll get notified when we go live.
Hey, Eddie, just send the Discord link, Discord server link. And one more thing, do you want to say our event, which is going to happen next week?
Okay,
or next week second. Or is month end, right? It's month end.
One second. I'm going to share a link to our community website that's got all the links, everything along the bottom. I think that just is a bit easier. So it's got the Discord link right at the bottom and so on. So I need to check with the boss, my wife, that I can make that event, but I'm pretty sure I can. So yes, an event that is 99% sure.
Okay.
I'm going to do with Praveen. And who are we doing it with? In 2 weeks, right? The 31st.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Sohini is here. So wait, let's keep it as a surprise.
But it's going to be awesome, right? Imagine Praveen, who's awesome. Sohini's awesome. Me, I'm just a joker. I will come with my teddy.
I'm no one.
And we're gonna, what we're doing is Alexa skills.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that sounds pretty cool. So bring your questions, bring your ideas. They're gonna build something. I'm gonna talk a lot, and actually,
I'll be completely on mute on that day because it's nothing to do with me. I have like literally no clue about it.
I went to a few Alexa hackathons, and it's really amazing how simple it is to build an Alexa skill to get started. I'm not saying it's easy, but to get started, it's quite simple. And then you can really do some clever things, which I don't know how to do them. So I'm going to learn on that event how to do those more advanced, clever things. But one of the really interesting things is when you're giving a talk about presenting your hackathon project and you say, well, today we built an Alexa app. She always replies and goes, well, whatever she says, you know, how can I help or whatever. It's like, no, I haven't got to you yet. So that just happens all the time. It's just something you got to live with. But thank you all again so much. It was just so awesome to be here. I look forward to next time. Praveen, maybe we'll do a collaboration next time. Praveen can do all the work and I can just chat in the chat.
Yes,
definitely.
we'll do it.
Eddie, can you give us all the links that you want to share with the participants in that Discord group so that we can share it with them later?
Sorry, can you say that again? I didn't hear it very well.
Could you like
he was just asking you to share all the links.
Which links do you want me to share? Sorry.
Eddie put his community link, so all the links are available
there
on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Discord links are.
Yeah. So at the bottom of
Eddie Jaoude
the
community.github.io.
Yeah, but at the bottom of that page, there's Discord, there's my YouTube channel, there's the GitHub organization where you can find the support repo, and join Praveen's channel as well because he's awesome. He does lots of great stuff.
Would you like to put my link? I'm not able to put my link.
Okay,
I'll
Praveen, I'll put your link. Here we go. I put Praveen's link as well.
Yes.
And Praveen was in my latest video that went live on YouTube last night. It adds lots of tips from loads of YouTubers on developers and YouTubers that you probably recognize. And Praveen's in there as well. So do watch that video. It's 20 minutes, but it is all these YouTube developers giving you 3 tips each on how to become a better developer and how to accelerate your career. And I was watching it, my mind was like, they are amazing tips. So do watch it, leave a comment and let me know what your favorite tips were. Again, that's adding value, right? What were your favorite tips? Do you have any tips you'd give? Leave a comment. Add value to the community so people recognize you. And then when they see you on other platforms, they go, oh, that person's really, really helpful, really engaging. You know, I'm going to chat more with them more and they'll answer your questions more and so forth. So yeah, definitely add more value and try and have the same profile picture and name across platforms so people can recognize you. It's really hard when people write to me in a YouTube live chat and say, "Hey Eddie, thanks for your help." I'm like, who is this? And then like, "Oh, I was chatting to you on Discord. I'm different names." Like, I have trouble remembering everyone's name, let alone everyone who has 4 different names, because on Discord it's here, on Twitter it's here, and on YouTube it's here. So again, keep it looking professional, make it easier for other people. I'll stop talking now. I'm sure it must be Sunday night by now. You're all probably bored of me talking. That's when you're meant to say no. Thank you. It's fine, Eddie.
No.
We're not bored. We're actually charged right now.
No. Okay, cool. I'm going to leave you all to it, and then you can all go do some open source tonight.
Hey, let them sleep.
You know, it's still early, right? For you, it's like, what time is it? It must be 6, 11:30.
11:30.
It's 10:30.
It's 10:20.
It's even earlier.
Wait.
You've just
Eddie,
gained an extra hour.
No. Another 1 week to go. Like, sorry, 2 weeks to go, right?
Oh,
Yep, for daylight savings.
Daylight saving
So
time.
you've literally just gained an hour. So that's an hour of open source. So try and go find a project or an issue that looks interesting. And we've got all our projects in our community. They're all welcome to contribute.
Look at Nipun. He says like he's gonna contribute in his dreams. Awesome.
Indra doesn't need sleep.
Who needs sleep anyway?
I have to be rude and go to another meeting now. I have to work. I do work as well. But
Oh my God.
if anyone has any questions, just reach out to me on socials or in Discord, and there'll be other people in Discord who can answer your questions, because I've got family, got job, etc. So I might be a bit slow, but other people will reply, and then when I get a chance, I'll join in as well. And that's a great way for you to get different perspectives rather than just one perspective just from me. Praveen's in the Discord, and he can give his perspective, and I think it's important for you to get loads of different perspectives, and don't think about trying to get one mentor. Everyone here, all of you, you're all my mentors. I can learn from all of you. So have everyone here be your mentor as well, and try and learn from each other. Everyone, thank you again.
Thanks, Eddie.
Bye, Eddie. Thanks
a lot, Eddie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Eddie.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Okay, boys, let's wrap up.
Should I end the meet?
Yep, there's no one left I mean, there are 75 people left though, but I think we can end the meet. Bye, boys.
Before ending the meet, just make sure you guys save the chat. This is an awesome thing, and I missed everything.
Oh, okay. I think Manav, the chat got saved, right? In the Zoom.
Yep. It gets Zoom saved.
Yes, Praveen, the chat is saved. Don't worry.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
And thanks a lot for the screenshots, Praveen. Send them.
Yeah, I'll be sending them, making sure your phone doesn't work after that, because I've took around 20 to 25 screenshots, and enjoy.
Yes. Goodbye, Praveen.
Goodbye. Have a nice day, everyone. See you all.
You too.
Ciao.
Yep. Bye. Yes, Manav.